Well, hello and good afternoon. This is Sunday, the 29th of October. And today's little story, as you can see, I'm going to be telling this from inside the car down at the near the harbour. I came down to check on a couple of the boats that are in the harbour, make sure everything's okay. As you can see, we've had some windy weather, and in certain wind directions the harbour can get a little bit dicey, so I just came to check on the boats. So drama, subject of today. When I was a child, probably 7 years old maybe, I used to play sometimes at home on my own, and on one of those occasions I was playing the hero. Of course, we always pick the hero, don't we? And I was a secret agent, and I had infiltrated an enemy installation, and it was a drama, a wonderful drama, and I was completely absorbed in it. I wasn't a seven-year-old boy. I was a hero, daring do, and my mission was to make sure that I neutralized the enemy in whatever way was necessary to protect the Allied forces for who I worked. And like all kids, I was deeply invested in this drama. Your house, your home, it ceases to be your house and your home. It's an adventure playground of the imagination. And in a cupboard on the second floor of the house, a large cupboard, large enough for me as a child to sneak into, I was hidden, holed up, hiding from the enemy, who were, of course, searching for me. And there I found an old radio. Well, I say it was an old radio. I rationalised as much as I could, as a child of that age, that it was in fact an old radio set, a broken radio that my parents had probably had. That quickly passed away. What it really was, in the drama, was it was a communication instrument that the enemy would use to not only capture me, but also to expose the Allied forces and put them in peril. And I had found it. There was only one thing I could do, and that was disable it. And disable it I surely did. And surely I was a hero for doing so. I pulled out wires. I didn't care what colour they were, blue, green, yellow, red, whatever colour. I couldn't really see that well, I only had a little torch with me and the batteries weren't that good. Out came the wires, and I disabled this radio set that could have caused doom and disaster to the Allied forces. I was a hero. In my drama, I had succeeded where others would fail. Now, of course, I was a child, and that isn't quite the reality. It was the drama. Now, in later life, I never was particularly fond of dramas. I didn't mind adventure, and I didn't mind documentaries, but dramas I never quite could see the point in them. It all seemed to be much ado about nothing. But when you're a child and you are playing out a drama, it isn't much ado about nothing. It's what's going to save the world. And I had saved the world. I had saved it from a grim, totalitarian, authoritarian state that would take over it and change the way of life that we lead from black and white to grey. Now, I didn't obviously do very well at that when we look at the state of the world today, did I? I didn't really save the world from totalitarianism and authoritarianism. Not really. But I was a child, and it was a drama. So why is the story about drama? Well, because the reality of the situation was not that I had destroyed an enemy means of communication. What I had actually done was destroy something very precious to my father. Before my father went into the medical world, he'd been trained as an electrical engineer, and he had designed and built what was possibly the first mobile, transportable heart monitor. It was the size of an old radio, an old valve radio. Now, I don't know for sure it was the first ever. But what I do know is that when I was older, when I was a teenager, my mother dug out an encyclopedia, a medical encyclopedia, and showed me the entry with my father's name showing this invention. Showing this mobile heart monitor. His name and his details there. He hadn't patented it. He wanted it, I suppose, open source. He wanted everyone to be able to have access to it, free of charge, so they could use it or develop it and improve it, which is what happened. He'd stored it away in this cupboard. And I had found it, and mistakenly I decided it was an old radio set that my parents had that they'd put away that was obviously broken. Now, I could have asked my mother, but I was too involved in the drama. I was saving the world. I was saving the world from authoritarianism, dictatorship. So I didn't ask. I let the drama grip me. I let the drama push me along. Now, of course, that only happens in the world of children, doesn't it? Well, we'd like to hope that's the case. But of course, it's not the case, is it? Because we have examples, recent examples, of how drama sweeps people along to such an extent that they lose the ability or the will to stop and to question what they're doing, whether it's right, whether it's wrong, whether the reasons for doing it are valid reasons. So what examples do we have? Well, we could think about the Iraq War and how we were hustled along into accepting that this was something we should do. Now, there were certainly lots of protests against it, but there was just enough forward momentum of the drama that the government could carry out its agenda. It was a close thing, though. Obviously, Iraq didn't pose a danger with weapons of mass destruction. We all know now that they didn't exist. But it created enough panic and drama that they could convince everybody there was no time to think, no time to ask any more questions. It was already nearly too late. And so what was the result? Well, the result was that their agenda was fulfilled. Whether the agenda was about oil, of which Iraq had 60 or has 60% of the world's reserves, whether it was regarding Saddam Hussein's inclination to look at moving away from the petrodollar with the rest of the OPEC countries and having either a gold system or a currency backed by gold instead of the petrodollar. Now, obviously that couldn't be allowed, could it? the influence would have moved, it would have shifted, the control of the power would have shifted. So it couldn't be allowed. But of course you can't say that, can you? You can't say, look, we need to keep control of this situation for our financial benefit and for that of policing and controlling of the world. No, you can't do that. So you say there is a clear and present danger from weapons of mass destruction, and before we can verify this, we have to act, because we know, we have clear intelligence. Well, I as a child didn't turn out to be a very good intelligence officer. I destroyed my father's invention, his mobile heart monitor. And I guess that their intelligence officers were no better than I. So the result, their agenda was fulfilled and hundreds of thousands of innocent civilians were killed. No matter. Maybe it's the drama that was force-fed to us over General Gaddafi and Libya. They had to go in to enforce United Nations directives. Maybe, again, it might have been that General Gaddafi was suggesting to the OPEC nations that we ought to move away from the petrodollar. Have a gold-backed currency instead of the petrodollar. The resources are ours, why should we let somebody else control them? And why should we be in their debt? No, maybe it was, maybe it wasn't. But what was the result? Pretty much the same as Iraq, really. Total chaos, destruction of a nation, ruination of a nation, hundreds of thousands of innocent civilians dead, and their objectives achieved. Then again, 2020. Now this was a bit of a step up in their game. They did far better. They had to really push things through with Iraq and with Libya. There was a lot of people who were not in support of what went on. But in 2020, they created a world situation, a world drama, with fake newsreel of people dropping like flies. A whole fake narrative, which allowed them to enact draconian actions and legislation. But the people were swept along with the drama. They thought they were saving the world. They didn't really ask too much what they were saving it from. They'd been told what they were saving it from. No need to question that. The government wouldn't lie to us. Yet these same people will repeatedly say you can't trust government. But they did. They were swept by the drama. And that drama normalised action that seems quite bizarre and unacceptable by any standards of a democratic, free, liberal society. People lost their jobs for not agreeing to the requests, the demands that the narrative made. They lost careers. Scientists were silenced. Academics were dismissed. Workers lost their jobs. Ordinary workers lost their jobs. Nurses and doctors were dismissed for not following the narrative, for asking questions. Families were divided. Divorces occurred. Children didn't speak to parents, parents didn't speak to children, and still don't. Those who asked questions were vilified and silenced. In some countries, they were arrested and locked up in prison for asking questions. Now, I'm sure we'll all agree that's perfectly reasonable behaviour in democratic, free, liberal society. Really? Or is that more like we would expect out of the Soviet Union? So we were led to believe. How did it be that the drama so swept people along that they didn't ask, is it right that I can't visit my dying mother, my dying father or grandfather, grandmother in hospital, in the care home? Why is it right that they should be left to die alone? Why is that acceptable? People didn't ask this. They simply agreed that that's what had to be done. It has to be done, and it's hard and it's harsh. Do we remember that our governments worldwide seemed not quite to adhere to the same strictures that we were adhering to, and in cases, many cases, being forced to adhere to? Literally forced. This is the problem with the drama, isn't it? We lose leave of our senses when we get wrapped up in drama. And drama has very serious consequences. Old people dying without their loved ones and family with them. Confused and alone. People's careers ended. Homes lost. Families split. Because we were swept along by drama. And that fire was fed by the media, who acted on behalf of the government. What was the end result? As with Iraq, as with Libya, and as with most others, a lot of people were harmed, and the government's agenda was fulfilled. A lot of money was made. Had I thought as a child to ask my mother the simple facts about this piece of equipment that I found, then I wouldn't have destroyed it. My father's invention, of which he was so proud, would maybe have been passed down to me. I would still have it, and I could treasure it. But no, I didn't do that. Because I was a child. We're adults now. And we should always question any narrative that is put out and try to think, is there an agenda here? Is this a drama or is it real? Because a drama is not reality. And maybe with others, I still have no real interest in televised dramas. I find them a waste of time. It is just a drama. Invariably, I watch it play out and think, well, A, I'm not going to watch any more of this, I really can't be bothered. And B, why is it still unfolding? Why hasn't somebody just said, oh, this is all much ado about nothing? The problem with this much ado about nothing is that it can have very, very unpleasant consequences. The trouble with drama is that governments and media use it as a tool against us to get us to accept and comply with things which are utterly unacceptable. Now, I'm sorry to bring that kind of subject up again with my talk about drama. It's bringing up 2020 again, and I'm sure we've all moved on from them because we have a new distraction. I apologise, actually, we don't just have one new distraction. That distraction has been distracted now by another distraction. And so it rolls on, and so it rolls on, and the drama unfolds predictably and horrifically. That's my story for today. Thank you very much. As you can see, rough weather out there, but we are in the far north of Scotland, so only to be expected. Thank you very much for listening, and I'll speak to you all later. Bye bye for now.